The added layer on that now, it's not enough to say, is this a human or is it a bot? Because now the bot can be a good bot. This could be an agent, which has been deployed on my behalf. And so we are already looking at new signals using this expertise we have in house to say, what are those behaviors and signatures that we will be looking for in this new agentic world?
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. My guest today is Kathleen Peters. Kathleen is the Chief Innovation Officer of Experian, a role she's held for more than 5 of her 10 and a half years with the company. Experian is a global data and technology company that helps to redefine lending practices, uncover and prevent fraud, simplify healthcare, deliver digital marketing solutions, and gain deeper insights into the automotive market, all through a combination of data, analytics, and software. The company earned $7.25 billion in fiscal 2025. As Chief Innovation Officer, Kathleen looks for new ways to define product strategies, roadmaps, and priorities for the company, analyzing industry trends and the latest technologies to bring innovative solutions to clients. I look forward to learning more about her methods and the fruit those methods have produced through this conversation. Kathleen, welcome to Technovation. It's great to speak with you.
Thanks so much, Peter. It's great to be with you.
Well, Kathleen, let's begin with Experian. I offered a thumbnail sketch as to the business you're in. Take it from there if you would, and fill in some finer details if you would.
Sure, absolutely. So I think historically, Experian has been well known as a data company. We are trusted stewards of consumer data, and particularly that data that has been used historically for determining credit risk, identity verification, et cetera. But more recently, and over several years, we have taken very deliberate steps to transform ourselves into a technology first company. And that's everything from transforming the way we develop software, the stacks that we run on, but more importantly, branching into new markets. And you mentioned a few of them. A lot of people don't know that Experian has quite extensive business around the handling of healthcare data and the processing of that data, for example. People may not be as familiar with our automotive business and the kinds of data and tools that we provide for consumers, for dealers, for lenders in helping that ecosystem work, just to name a couple. We also have a very robust direct to consumer business that helps consumers be educated about their credit, about their identity, about the best ways to find the insurance or credit card that's right for them. So we really have this great window into helping consumers and businesses really to reach their goals.
A fantastic overview. Thank you for that, Kathleen. Talk a bit about your purview as Chief Innovation Officer, not a title that every company has. And so we'd love to understand how this is, how your role is structured.
It's a fantastic opportunity and one that I feel very privileged, frankly, Peter, to have. In my role, I look after our product strategy, our innovation and new product lines, particularly in the areas of identity verification and fraud detection, and then also M&A and strategic investment around those areas in particular. So I partner with Dr. Shanji Zhang, who is the chief scientist and leader of our innovation labs, and we can talk some more about that as well. And we look for ways that Experian can leverage the analytical insights that we can bring to bear, the data from ourselves, from our clients, that we're able from third parties to bring together to develop those new insights and to think about ways that we can help solve the challenges, not just of today, but tomorrow. This world is a rapidly evolving place. Certainly, AI is on the tip of everyone's tongue. And so we need to make sure that we are looking ahead to understand how can Experian be that best partner for consumers and for the businesses that we serve.
Fascinating. And I would love to actually understand as you think about innovation, how do you point the organization in a direction as to where to focus its attention when attempting to derive innovative ideas? What becomes sort of the north star of those activities?
It really has to be a cultural, deliberate step, I believe, that organizations need to make. As a publicly traded business, as one who is always looking at how we continue to run that business in a way that suits our shareholders and the business growth itself, Sometimes we can get very tactically focused. However, in order for the business to grow and grow in the long term, we have to keep an eye on innovation. Our board of directors, I think it's similar with many other companies as well, want to know, how are you thinking about those opportunities of the future? How much of the revenue that your company is generating, the problems that you're solving, are coming from those new ideas and new innovations? So we do that in a variety of ways. One way is through our innovation lab, as I mentioned, and this has been a real core part of how we're organized and how we drive that innovation looking forward. So we just recently celebrated the 15th anniversary, in fact, of our innovation lab. So our chief scientist, Dr. Shanji Zhang, he helped co-found that lab 15 years ago. And the lab was initially started as an R&D arm and really looking at what is the blue sky opportunity associated with the data sets and the tools that we had, or as we partnered with some of our clients to do just exploration. Over the last 5 years, we started to change that and fine tune it just a bit to say, how can we treat this organization not just as R&D, but as one that is working very closely with our different business units to understand what are the most compelling challenges that our clients are struggling to deal with. How can we think about the technology that's here now, things that are in development, and start to address those challenges? A perfect concrete example is around generative AI. So, a couple of years ago, as generative AI became widely available in public facing kinds of tools, that really changed the landscape. And it made an opportunity window open for us that we could think about, how do we use generative AI internally? How can we bring that to life in products that would make our tools easier for our clients to use and make them more productive, as well as be a more interesting way for us to interact with consumers and have that human and AI interaction? It's interesting because we didn't just start with AI then, of course. We've been using AI for decades in machine learning inside of our products and particularly in the lab. Even generative AI was certainly something that we were working on with our scientists in our lab years and years before. But it used to be just that. It was the realm of PhD data scientists, software engineers who are really expert in using those kinds of tools. Recognizing now how generative AI has become so available and usable by anyone and for free in most cases, this really changes what we can do. So, taking this deliberate new way of interacting between our lab and our businesses, we're having regular reviews and co development in order to bring that innovation to life faster.
And talk a bit, if you would, about how that lab is staffed. How is that team across its 15 years been constituted, and what sorts of skills does the team possess?
When we formed the lab 15 years ago, we were specifically looking for PhD level staff from top universities around the world to bring them together to let them explore and take advantage of this unique intersection point where Experian sits amongst all of these businesses and these different types of data. So these were PhDs primarily in data science and mathematics, looking to see what would be possible. One of the reasons that we did that was to show the world that Experian was not just a data company, but that we could bring these insights to life and that we were so much more. And as a client would have a particularly vexing problem they wanted to solve, we wanted Experian to come to mind as someone that they could work with, that they could explore this problem space more closely with. So that kind of staff, that specialized, special group of people has remained at the core of what we do and how we staff that team as it's grown over the years. We're really fortunate to still have Shanji on the technical helm of that organization. And he has built a vast network amongst the research groups that's in the top universities, particularly here in the US, as well as his network into the technology staff of advanced leading companies in the US as well. And since then, too, it's grown from being just the US lab to us now having a very robust lab for over 10 years in Brazil, as well as arms in the UK and in Asia. So it's really grown and expanded from just the US location where we first started.
And how do the people in the lab work with the rest of the Experian team? You talked about the broader ecosystem that is also an important source of collaboration and ideation, presumably as well. How about inside of Experian? Talk a bit about how that collaboration works.
Yeah, works really well these days. In fact, we bring a lot of energy to this notion of innovation with things like hackathons. And so these are internal events most of the time. Our Brazil team has actually been very exciting in how they have gone after involving the public and having very open hackathons as well and hosting them at our Experian facilities there in Brazil. But that's one way that we do it. Another way is working with the individual product management teams and business units in each of those regions. So that same model has worked well in terms of scaling the overall model of the innovation labs. But the labs also coordinate together as researchers, as scientists, they thrive on being able to share information amongst the different labs. And we look to leverage new findings and discoveries in one region with the others. And through this information sharing, through regular reporting, and through white papers, as well as demonstration days, we're able to do that and spread that across. We also involve the labs in demo days that we do with the startup community. We don't want to be so insular to think that it's all just happening here at Experian. We have regular reviews with startups that we may want to partner with, that we may want to invest in, that we may want to have on an acquisition watch list. These kinds of demo days that we do with them give us an opportunity to see where could Experian work with these companies. Are there unique relationships we could structure to partner together, to share data, to share learnings, to co create? So, both internally and externally, we are exposed to new innovation ideas.
Fantastic. You mentioned the company has been using artificial intelligence, machine learning for a number of years, and then last year the company launched Experian Assistant. Talk a bit about Experian Assistant, the goal of it, and the value that customers and the company are deriving from it.
Thanks, Peter, for asking about that one. Yes, we're really proud of Experian Assistant, and we've been getting great feedback, including an independent study recently that Forrester published, citing that companies are seeing tremendous ROI when they use Experian Assistant. So, Experian Assistant is really geared toward data scientists and teams at our clients who are trying to make use of the Experian Ascend platform. So Experience End Platform is very powerful and it provides tools and access to data, including rich and robust, fully anonymized data from our credit bureau, for example. So clients find this very useful when they are designing new risk models or looking at the performance of these risk models over time compared to their peers, et cetera. We have always had this capability for designing analytics and doing these studies, especially on our sandbox data and more, since the Ascend product came out. Last year, when we announced Assistant, it provided a natural language interface whereby at our clients, they would no longer have to have just data scientists taking some weeks or months to investigate and create new models. Now, that timeline could go from weeks to days or even minutes in creating a model to get that particular analysis that the company may want to see. So it's been a huge productivity boost, but not just that, it enabled more people within our clients' teams to be able to interact with the data. And so now a business leader or a product leader at a bank or financial institution, for example, through using the natural language interface of Experian Assistant, could generate models, could look at initial feedback and graphs on these problems that they were trying to solve or analyze further. as well as get those models ready for production deployments within the systems that that financial institution uses. So that's been a great boost and a really exciting product that we've been able to bring to market.
Fascinating. And talk a bit about your thought process with regard to agentic AI. Is it something you're beginning to incorporate into workloads across the organization? What's the promise of it? And from your perspective, I would love your perspectives.
Yeah, we're really excited about agentic AI. And in fact, we've been using agents within Experian Assistant that I just described. We've also been using agents in terms of using chatbots and tools that are implemented by and called by those agents. Also, in our direct to consumer business, when people are wanting to learn more information through their Experian membership. So, as consumers, you're able to understand what your credit report looks like, how your credit score was calculated. You can freeze and unfreeze your credit with the bureau. There's a number of things that are really exciting that you can do, as well as just get some additional education about how scores are derived, and information about how those can enable opportunities for you as a consumer. So, one of the things that we've done is updated what had been a traditional type of chatbot into one that is intelligent and one that understands and is hyper personalized to you as a consumer. And so that's been really exciting in the ways that we've been able to leverage agents to enhance that capability. And instead of just having generative AI describe an answer to a question for you, these agents can now do things for you. So, just as I was describing with Experian Assistant, how that can help business users take better advantage of the Ascend platform, not only will it tell the user how, it can actually take those next steps on behalf of the user. So we've been excited about how we've brought that agentic capability into production. We're also using that internally to streamline some of our own processes. So I'd be remiss though if I didn't mention the other thing that sort of keeps me awake at night about agents and agentic AI is what we are already starting to see in terms of agentic commerce. So certainly there's been a lot in the press from the card networks like Visa and MasterCard about how agents are going to be able to, on behalf of consumers, make purchases, book travel, things like this. It's already in action. You can see it here and there. We know that that is coming and is going to be coming at scale very soon. And so that's in one way very exciting when you think about the power that these agents have to simplify our lives and the tasks that we as consumers want to accomplish. But it also opens a whole new realm of possibility for fraud to be committed. So, as we think about agentic AI, and especially in this area of commerce, the questions that are on our minds are when we see an agent that is presenting a transaction, how do we know that there is a human who is consented that is behind that agentic action? How do we verify that human? How do we verify the agent to ensure that this is a legitimate agent? So there are a number of steps that need to be taken. There's a lot of ideas that are being presented by industry. We are actively engaged in that discussion right now. There's going to be a lot of things that are tried by the good guys and by the bad guys, but we need to be aware that AI in general, and especially agentic AI, is really going to supercharge fraudsters. And we need to stay out in front of that possibility as much as possible.
Well, you seem like a phenomenal person to talk about this as someone who has areas of expertise in identity and fraud detection and security more generally speaking. Can you talk a bit more about the methods that you use? As you point out, unfortunately, the bad guys are themselves quite smart, well funded, and innovative. And
Right.
so countering them it can be quite a challenge. Can you just generally speaking talk a bit about some of the methods that you use in order to do so?
I think everyone wishes there were some silver bullet that could just stop fraud for us, but that's not how it works. Because fraudsters are so creative and because they are equipped with stronger tools than ever before, We need to have this multi-layered, multi-pronged approach. So there are traditional methods around identity verification, fraud detection, which we will continue to use and which are industry standard ways of understanding who the consumer is or the person on either side, the business that they are interacting with, trying to identify aspects of that session, the device that they're using, the behavior of that consumer in the business to really determine whether there might be something here which is risky. The challenge with agentic AI is that there won't necessarily be that human in every step of the way there has been traditionally. And so we really need to step up our game in terms of how we think about the presented data, the signals that we will receive, and how we can use those to further risk a transaction. I'll give you an example. One of the exciting acquisitions that my team helped to lead last year for Experian was the acquisition of a company called NeuroID. So, NeuroID specializes in behavioral analytics. And what NeuroID can do is determine in a transaction, am I dealing with a human or with a bot? Am I dealing with a well intentioned human or a fraudster human? And looking at dozens, even hundreds of signals to make that deterministic risk decision in real time. The added layer on that now, it's not enough to say, is this a human or is it a bot? Because now the bot can be a good bot. This could be an agent which has been deployed on my behalf. And so we are already looking at new signals using this expertise we have in house to say, what are those behaviors and signatures that we will be looking for in this new agentic world to understand, okay, yes, this is a legitimate agent that's coming from my bank doing this transaction on my behalf. I can validate that person is associated with this particular agent, or I may wish to inject then some sort of step up or confirmation or communication back with the human just to make sure. It's early days. As consumers, as customers ourselves, we're going to want to know that we're safe. Even if we deploy an agent to go take care of these things for us, I'm going to want to know that my identity is protected and it's not going my agent isn't going to just buy a bunch of meme stock and walk away. And we need to make sure we understand what is empowered to do. Someone's checking back with me. There's going to be new behaviors that we all need to learn, but I am absolutely confident that we are making the right steps right now to get ahead of that as much as possible.
Spend so much time thinking about the art of the possible, what might be next. I wanted to see if there are other trends beyond the ones that we've discussed that have you excited as you contemplate what's to come.
One area that I'm particularly fascinated with, and I'm sure it has to do partly with some of my background as well, is around quantum computing. And this is an area that we're studying in the innovation lab with our scientists right now. But it's one that I am closely watching as well. It's got a lot of promise for the amount of compute that we'll be able to do at scale with massive amounts of data that just weren't possible in the past. We didn't have the scientific capability or the horsepower really to bring this to life. There's still debate in industry whether we're a few years out or many years out from mass use and application of quantum computing, but I believe it's coming sooner than later. We are looking for how we harness the capabilities and also understand the risks associated with quantum. Quantum computing, because of the scale of it, also has the potential to change a lot of the encryption type methods that we have relied on as a society for years. Brute force attacks that would never have been practical may become practical with quantum. What are we doing, not just as Experian, not just as an industry, but as a society to contemplate those changes? It's we've got great minds working on that in the world, and people are sharing and talking. It's an area I find really fascinating and one that we're keeping a close eye.
I wanted to also ask you anything that you've recently read, watched, and or listened to that you would recommend to others, Kathleen. I can only imagine you you have a broad diet intellectually, given the area of responsibility that you have. But would love your suggestions.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite podcasts, I have to say, is Lex Friedman. He has such interesting guests. I admire the stamina of many of those guests. I know you and I are talking for a few minutes today. He will have people on for hours, really fascinating thought leaders from all different walks of life: politics, art, Hollywood, uh, uh, scientists. And I always find his topics amazingly engaging and uh, the kind of thing you can just barely turn off. So his podcast is one that I find really, really fascinating. I may or may not agree with the guest or with the point of view, but I think he does a fantastic interview and one that I always enjoy listening to.
Yeah, great suggestion. I'm a fan of his podcast as well. Well, Kathleen, thank you so much for a gripping conversation, emblematic of the remarkable work you and your team are doing. Appreciate you joining me and for sharing so much of what's on offer, what's to come within Experian. Thank you so much.
Peter, thanks so much for the invitation. It was great.